Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on stressing video streaming with open source tools. My name is Emma, and I'm going to pass it along to our presenter, Roger, the CTO of Abstracta, in a moment. I'm just we'll wait for a few more people to join. I know it's just the hour started. And so I'll just say a few housekeeping things. The webinar is being recorded. So in the next day or two, you'll be getting an email with the webinar recording, and any sort of things that we come up in the webinar, we'll send over those links as well. If you have a question throughout the webinar, you should see a question tab on your GoToWebinar panel. Just feel free to ask a question throughout the webinar. We'll try and answer as many as we can towards the end of the webinar. And anything we don't answer, we'll try and get back to as well in the next few days as well. The last thing before I hand it over to Roger is there's a short 10-second survey that's going to pop up at the end of the webinar. If you can take those few 10 seconds or so to just fill that in, we really appreciate it. It gives us feedback for our webinars, and you can suggest future topics, follow-up sessions. So we really appreciate all of your feedback. So once again, thank you all for joining. And Roger, I'm going to pass it over to you now.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. I'm Roger, and I have more than 15 years working on software development. I've been working. I started as a junior developer, senior developer, team leader, architect, technical director, and right now I'm CTO at Abstracta. Abstracta is a software testing company. They provide services on testing and also developing testing solutions. In particular, I've been working lately closely with Meter to develop some Meter plugins and developing other solutions for Meter. And that's basically me. So we are going to start to see how we could, in this presentation, this webinar, how can we stress a video streaming platform or solution with open source tools. But before that, let me kind of put you in a situation, consider a situation, right? So considering that, oh, it's not moving. Okay, so consider that you are like here, like over in Martel, you're waiting for this final season that you've been waiting for 2 years now, and you're in the last night waiting for it. You are all comfy at your home. You maybe brought some snacks, get some beer, maybe invite some friends. And you're all like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this. This is going to be a great time. I will see my favorite show in this video streaming platform. They've been announced the show for the last 2 years. I'm eager to this. Let's enjoy it. But as you, there are many, many others that are in the same situation. And this is kind of an army for the platform, for the video streaming platform. So it's like a big, huge load that the platform is going to take when the show starts. And what happens after that? Well, this is a known story, or many people have already suffered from it. The worst happens. I mean, you might be kicked out of the platform. You try to log in and you can't. The video streaming quality is not the expected one. You get buffering or the like. So this is like the worst scenario for such platform. And when you have a company in this video streaming area, this is the worst thing that may happen to you, because people are going to lose confidence on your service. They are going to lose excitement on the TV show or the streaming that you're doing, and this is obviously not the preferred one. So we will strive, I mean, as companies, we should strive to try to test as much as they can the platform before, or the video streaming before going live. I'm not saying that this is not what companies do, but usually there are some lack of testing that. Some further evidence of this has been proven not only with past shows. This has been a recurrent thing on all video streaming platforms, and has recently happened also in this week in a new release on a video streaming platform. So it's something to always keep in mind. And when you are exposed to a huge lot of users, you should probably test the performance for that. But before showing you how this can be achieved, let's see how important is video streaming nowadays for companies, the world, our lives. So I got some numbers from internet Googling, and we can see that the market value associated to video streaming is valued to $125 billion for 2025. Right now it's around $100 billion, which is mostly the same market value as big companies like Salesforce, IBM, or Broadcom. So it's really valuable for the general enterprise. It has a 19 year-to-year growth. Some other metrics are that US consumers are spending as much time working as watching videos. So it's really important for our lives, and we might not realize about this, but we can see in the numbers. Half of the households are paid for video streaming services. We see also that business having videos on their home pages grow almost 50% faster year to year and get 41% more traffic from searches. And finally, but not least, the internet traffic, the worldwide internet usage of video streaming is more than half the total usage. About that, we can see here more detail on downstream traffic, and we can see here that, for instance, this is kind of a known metric, but anyways, we can see that Netflix and YouTube alone is eating like quarter of the downstream traffic globally. So this is really a massive traffic and really important for video streaming currently in internet. So now let me talk you about more technical stuff. For example, what are the main protocols that are being used for video streaming? So here I'm presenting like the top 5 protocols of collected in more than 4,000 servers of a company that has different video streaming servers. This is WMS panel, and I collected all the information like historical data. And we can see here, even though this information, I mean, it should be representative because they have so many servers and they use all the technologies for video streaming. This is just a representative thing. It's not a real usage on internet. We cannot get that. But just for taking into consideration, something that is not taken into account here is that Netflix and YouTube, which are the ones that have more video streaming, are in fact using MPG Dash, or they say that they support MPG Dash. So those servers which are not considered here are not considered in the graphs. But anyways, it should be quite representative. But from what we can see here, we see a clear evidence of one that stands as the most used protocol with almost 80% of the usage. This is HLS, is a standard developed by Apple, and then later on released as an RTC. This protocol for video streaming provides all the functionalities of any video streaming protocol. It allows you to switch this to have adaptive rate of download. You can switch between streams. You have different variants. You can have security on top of the video stream. You can have DRM-B, etc. It's really complete protocol, and they are always releasing new amendments and new features on top of it. So it's really a live protocol, and it's the most used one. Then we had our RTMP, which used to be the most used protocol, but since it is based on Flash, and Adobe announced that they are not going to support any longer Flash by 2020, all the usage of this protocol has moved to other protocols, as HLS, for example. Then there is progressive download, which is not actually a live streaming or video streaming protocol. It's just downloading a file and reproducing that file while it's being downloaded. This does not provide you any support for changing the rate or to have adaptive bit rate while you are downloading or to select different variants. It's just really basic, but it's really easy to implement. So many companies use that for showing some videos and displaying videos in general. Then there is IceCast, which I need to know before preparing the information for this presentation, but they provide a platform for both serving, video streaming, and clients for showing those videos on the client side on web pages. And finally, but not least, we have MPG Dash, which is an open source, an open standard created by many companies that have united. For example, there is Google and other big companies. This protocol also is very flexible, very powerful, and has the same functionality and more functionality than HLS in some senses. For example, it supports ads and like in the reproduction, but it's also more complex. It has more, as it has more flexibility, it has a lot more complexity. In fact, implementing a client for it is quite more difficult than HLS because they support many different ways of doing the same thing. Okay, so now let me show you how, like, the general picture on how HLS works. In general, this is similar in MPG Dash, so in general in live streaming is mostly the same, but you have a source which provides the video, the raw video, then you encode it in different formats for your client. Maybe some clients require some encoding or some particular format for audio or like. Then you do segmentation and validation, which kind of segments the video in different parts, which allows the clients to download different parts and do seeking and like. And from that segmentation validation, what we get for HLS is a master playlist, which contains all the different variants. It's kind of a descriptor of all the available options in the video. For example, it has the options for different audio tracks, subtitles, different point of view of the video, etc. And the master playlist contains a list of media playlists. Each media playlist is a representation or contains a list of the segments for that media. For example, a media playlist for audio, a media playlist for audio in Spanish, a media playlist for video, another for subtitles, etc. And then at the end are the segments, the different parts that compose the actual media. The client downloads the master playlist, select the media playlist that they want to reproduce, and start downloading the segments to reproduce the video. That's how it usually works in general picture. So let me show you how this actually looks like with an HLS video. Let's go to Demo Blaze, which has a HLS video. Let's do a network inspect and let's refresh this. Okay, so if we go here, filter, we can see here there is M3U files, M3U8 files, sorry. And these M3U8 files, first there is the master playlist, which has this format where you can see there are different variants, different URLs, and the metadata of those variants with different bandwidth and resolutions. And each of these are the media playlist. Then the client, or the browser in this case, will select one of these variants and will download it. For example, here it's selected this one, which is the one with less bandwidth. And then the media playlist, we can see also the format here, which is composed of different segments, each of them with a specific duration and the URL to those segments. And in this particular case, since it's a video on demand, it's not a live streaming, this playlist has an end, so we can see here at the end that there is an X end list. So this means that the video is complete. For live streaming, this usually isn't there until the live streamer or event ends. And then we can see that this video, this page also retrieved the first segment. If we filter by .ts, we see that there is the first segment. If we go here to the video reproduction, we can see here that the segments are being downloaded as expected, as one would expect, right? Okay, so this is what a video or HLS client usually looks like. So how can we test this or reproduce this and test for that and do it in doing performance test for this video streaming and do it at scale as well. So for this, I'm going to show you how we can do it on JMeter. JMeter is an open source tool developed in Java, which is pretty popular. And we are going to use a plugin that is HLS 2.0 plugin that's been developed by Blazemeter. And this plugin allows you to easily implement tests for HLS. So I'm going to start JMeter. This is JMeter, the tool. You can install the HLS plugin by first installing a plugin that is called Plugin Manager. You install that plugin and you get kind of this option. And here you can search in available plugins HLS. It's not showing for me because I already have it installed here. And when you have that installed, then you can start testing HLS stream pretty easily. For that, you add a thread group. A thread group allows you to specify how many threads or users, concurrent users, you're going to use for hitting your service to do your performance test. And you can also specify the ramp of how these users are being created, and also how many times each user iterates, how many times each user does what is inside of the thread. Then you should add a sampler, which a sampler is an interaction with the service that you want to test. In particular, we are going to use the HLS sampler. This sampler is provided by the plugin. So now, in the plugin, you can specify the URL of your video. In fact, here we are going to put the master playlist video URL. Sorry, here, headers. Copy this. And then you can specify how much of the video you want to reproduce. You can put the whole video, or you can specify, for example, let's do, I don't know, 30 seconds. You can also specify different tracks. If you want to download alternative tracks, it will automatically download the default ones. But if you want to use an alternative one, you can specify here by providing the language code, for example, audio and subtitle tracks. You can also specify what variant you want to download, either by selecting min or max or custom values for bandwidth and resolution. I'm going to use minimum resolution and minimum bandwidth. And this final option, by default, the plugin, how it works is every time a user iterates, it will start the video from the beginning. In the case of a live streaming video, it will start from the beginning of the live stream, or the soonest available segment from the live stream. If you enable this, if you check this mark, it will not behave that way. It will not start from the beginning. I will start from where it left. So it allows you kind of resume the video where it left for each of the concurrent users. But let's use it in a standard way. The other thing that you will do before actually testing, we are going to test with one user some wide iterations just to see if this works or how it works, kind of debugging. That's the usual way you will work with it. But before executing this, we want to see the information in some sense. So we add a listener. The listener is the way of reporting information on JMeter. They will report it here in the UI, and you can also use them for reporting to files or alternative formats. I'm going to use the view results tree, which is nice to do tracing and analyze information for a small number of requests. I will show you later on what we do when we have too many requests or kind of are load testing our application. So now if I hit play, it's asking me to save the test plan. So later on I can reuse it. I will save it. Let's do demo Blaze test. Okay, we save it and it's running. And we can see here live that the video stream is doing the same thing as the HLS client was doing. It downloaded the master playlist, where you can see the response here. It downloaded a media playlist, which is the same, also the same playlist because I used the minimum resolution bandwidth. And we get all the media playlists, and then it downloaded 3 segments because the duration of the segments, if we check here, is around 10 seconds. So it needs this segment, and this other to fulfill with the 30 seconds reproduction. Here it's a binary, so we cannot see much, but you can see the headers here, and we have included also in the plugin an additional header, a fake header, which allows you to easily see the duration of the segment, of each of the segment. So you can later on do some more interesting stuff I will show you. For example, measuring buffering time. Okay, so that's about it. We have now a really raw plan, which is just test with one user. But if you want to test with more concurrent users, for example, let's say 5 users, and we want each user to run 3 times, we clear here to start again. And before doing that, because I don't want to have, well, let's do it. Let's play here, and you start seeing all the requests from all the users concurrently, which is kind of messy. And you can use it for tracing purposes, but it doesn't provide you any general information. So for that, for getting general information, it's better to use a summary report, for instance. Here, let's clean it and start it again. We can see general information grouped by the type of request that you are doing, master playlist, media playlist, and media segment. And you can see different metrics, for example, the average response time, how many requests were done, the minimum maximum of responses, standard deviations, if there were any errors, throughput, and bytes, etc. So this gives you the general basics. If you want to store the information, each of the request metrics in general response time and latency, you can store them in a file here. You put the path, for example, I don't know, users.elena desktop HLS webinar and HLS CSV or demo place, maybe. We can run it, and this is going to generate a CSV file, which we can later on analyze even with JMeter or with other tools. So here is the demo list. You can see all the requests with all the metrics, which is really nice. Okay, so now this is fine. I mean, we can test, we can easily configure the test. It's really simple, this plugin. I mean, you only have to configure the master playlist and general playback options, and it will simplify all interactions with HLS video, sorry. And you can increase the number of users and the loop back as much as you want and test the performance from there. But that is not enough. And before going on how we can scale this, let me show you a different topic. Let's talk about how we can actually measure the user experience of the video streaming reproduction, because here we are only seeing download times, which we might correlate with actual how buffering will look on the client or the live, or we kind of have very rough metric on user experience, but it's not that useful as it is. So let's talk first on video on user experience. Before I go into that, there is a link here. I guess that we will share the links afterwards. Emma is going to also provide information about this blog post when she sends you the email. But there is a link with a blog post that we have written recently, which provides all the information I'm presenting to you in the webinar, and also the scripts and introduction to each of the features of the plugin. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so now let me talk to you about video streaming user experience. What a user would expect, or an ideal use case, will be that you start the video streaming here at the beginning, the 00, and as the time goes, the playback time goes as well. I mean, it will be kind of no waiting for the video at the beginning, and you will get no buffer, no waiting in the middle. That is kind of the ideal case, but as we know, that is not the real life. That is not how network behaves, nor is possible. So this is how it really, the load time, or how your network usually behaves. Sometimes it's faster than expected, sometimes it's slower. And with this example use case, we will see a user experience like this. We'll see buffering at the beginning. This will usually be the case while the buffer is being filled, and you retrieve the page, and the bytes goes back and forth. and then the version will start. But in some time, if the download time, the downloaded byte is not enough, you might get an additional buffering time here. So you might be kind of seeing the video, and then this video will stop for some minutes and then continue on from there. So this is kind of not the expected thing. The ideal thing will be to have no buffering at all. So we want to have some way of measuring the buffering time. Okay, for that, with this new version of the plugin that we have released, it's now possible. Let me show you how. I will just do it really quick since you have it in the blog post already, how this script looks like. Sorry, this was not the one. So let's test. No. And here, so we are going to see how to measure buffering and do some report on it. Then I will also talk about how to do login and cookies for security of your video streaming. I'm going to talk briefly about multi-user profile now. So let's go back to here. Now here we can see that I'm created, I have the HLS sampler. This is another playlist, but anyways, mostly the same. And I have a preprocessor and an assertion. This preprocessor and assertion, what basically does is they obtain the buffer time, they compare the segment reproduction time to the download time, and calculate if each of the segment of the media segment of the downloaded media segment requires some buffering time or not. And if they do require, they will mark the request as failed. So let's run this case and see what we get. All right, the system file. This is because I have a file here. Oh, I have to stop it because this way we will not see that much. Right, system file. And we can see here, as this script that you created is pretty basic, it's not actually taking into consideration that the first media segment is always going to have buffer time, since you have to download the master playlist and the media segment for actual reproduction. You will see also in this case that all the first media segments are marked as failed. But we are seeing also some media segments that are not. But in this case, you can see that we can easily report on media segments that have some buffering time, and we see how much buffering time it took. For example, this media segment, since the beginning of the playback, took 134 milliseconds to start reproducing. And this one, we can see the 237. And if we go to the summary, we can see here that there was an error percent for all these requests that have failed. So this is really nice. You can mark all the requests, all the samples that are failing, and you can get kind of an estimation of how these perform and provide user experience. You can also improve this logic that I provided. It's really basic. You can improve this logic to be more extensive or more real. Maybe you can provide like initial buffering time, avoid the first segment to be reported as failed, etc. But what I want to show you is that you can also store this information, this buffering time. In fact, I've been storing this in a CSV file, but in general, to be able to store this segment buffer in milliseconds and the buffer time, you have to modify JMeter by going to the JMeter installation path. You go to the user properties, and you will have these variables, sample variables, which you can set to the variables that you want the CSV files to include. In particular, I have included buffer time millis and segment buffering millis. So once I add this, JMeter will automatically include in the CSV file. Let me see if I have it. No, it's not this one. It's this one. We can see here that it has included already 2 additional columns to the CSV file reporting the metrics that we want. So we can analyze this with any tool that we want. This is just a CSV. I mean, you can use Excel or the like, but you can also use JMeter to report on this. For example, you can see here in the user properties, I defined 2 custom graph tools, or 2 custom graph settings. One for the segment buffering millis and the other for buffer time millis. And if we do that and go to JMeter tools, generate HTML report, you can specify here the CSV file. So if we go to desktop, HLS webinar, we select this one, and we go to select the user properties, which is in applications, JMeter, 5.5.1, being user properties, and the output directory is where we want to store this. Let's select this and put report. And if we do that, this is going to generate HTML report. Okay, it's generated. And if we go here to report index, we can see a report with general statistics, all the usual JMeter stats, dashboard, but most importantly, if you go to custom graphs, over time, you will see the metrics that we had been collected with those variables. So here we see the actual time that the application has buffer of the video streaming while reproducing, and here we can see how much buffering each segment has had while reproducing the video. This is kind of a summary. So it's really nice for reporting how is the user experience while you are reproducing video, while you are testing your application. Okay, so you can get more details on this on the blog post. Check on that. The two other things I was going to comment was on login, cookies, and multi-users. Okay, so go here. We can easily, I already added here, but you can easily add HTTP authorization manager. That is done by going here to add config elements, HTTP authorization manager. And you can specify, for example, here a domain, a base URL, username, and password. So this will automatically make JMeter send, in this case, a basic authentication mechanism on the associated headers to the server, and you will get authentication pretty easily. Another usual stuff when doing authentication is to have a consistent cookie managing. So usually you will also add HTTP cookie manager, where you can specify some budget for defining cookies if you want, and it will handle cookies gracefully. The other main thing that you might want to do while testing a video streaming platform is test with different user profiles. For example, maybe you want some users to use minimum bandwidth and minimum resolution, but maybe you want some others using a custom bandwidth and custom resolution, or using the maximum. Maybe you want some to have audio and subtitles. Well, for this, if you want to have the same test running the different things, the most simple thing to do is to add another thread group and add another sampler, and name each sampler accordingly. For example, you may say this is the low quality one, and this is the high quality one, and you specify, for example, like this, and put the video streaming URL here as well. So that will, and you can specify also how many users you want in each of the thread groups, how many iterations on each. So it's really, really flexible. You can also, another way of doing this might be parameterizing these values. For example, you can specify here a bandwidth setting, and then, for example, in this case, you might set this bandwidth randomly depending on the percentage you want for each bandwidth. For example, here in the preprocessor, we see that there you can set the bandwidth with a random calculation according to like 50% of these two bandwidths. So those are some tricks or things that you might be interested in trying or want to do while you test your application. But so far, I've shown you how to run this test plan from a machine, which is not really, I mean, I will be limited by the power of my machine. I will not be able to do that much load on the video streaming or any server or the like. So what do we do if we actually want an army of people, like a ton of users, of concurrent users, which my machine cannot handle, and I want to test this from different sides of the world, and I want like a real powerful thing, like an army of JMeters instances. So that's where BlazeMeter comes in. BlazeMeter is a solution that allows you to upload to their tool JMeter scripts. This same JMeter script I've been creating and testing locally. You can upload them to JMeter, to BlazeMeter, And in BlazeMeter, you can specify how many JMeter instances you want. You get automatic reporting for all those instances, aggregation, and the like. It allows you to select different locations for running those tests. So allows you to simulate having load from different parts of the world. You can also get the aggregate information or by location. They also provide features to allow to specify if a test fail according to a general statistic. For example, if 50% of the requests have a percentile of a 95 percentile of response time over 100, then fail. That can be done on BlazeMeter, which is kind of difficult to do on JMeter. And they provide options to compare runs, which is really handy. And they provide also continuous integration solution. For example, they provide a REST API, which is really easy to integrate with continuous integration system through API request. Or you can also use an open source tool they have developed that is called Torus, that allows you, there is a command line tool which you can use with your JMeter script to run these scripts on BlazeMeter platform and report on them. They also provide the basic functionality they provide is BlazeMeter provide is cloud-based, but you can also request an on-premise if you want to get your information secure under your own servers, or you can also use hybrid solutions. So I would say, like, for doing performance tests locally and to try things, local is fine using JMeter, but in general, when you want to scale and go kind of hitting hard your servers, you should go with BlazeMeter. Okay, some final tips and tricks. Okay, so the plugin, as I mentioned to you, is really, and as you've seen, it's really easy to use. You just put the information there, the URL of the master playlist, the reproduction time and the like, and it just works, and it follows all the general logic or behavior as usual HLS or video streaming protocols or clients, use. But if you want to do more advanced thing, I mean, if you have some particular needs to do HLS or video streaming consumption with some particular needs that the plugin doesn't fulfill, you might also do the request, the HTTP request all by yourself. You can specify, you can kind of do the request all by yourself, use loops inside JMeter, use extractors to kind of get the different media segments or variants and then request on them. So there are many blog posts on BlazeMeter blog, which you can use, and you can kind of search there for HLS, and you will see many blogs on how to do this and different metrics that you can get with the plugin, and this latest blog post that I mentioned with the latest version of the plugin and the new features that it provides you. Some final tips while doing general performance testing: always, before actually running the test with many engines or running a test, calibrate your test. So identify how many virtual users, concurrent users, or threads you can run for your particular test on one engine, and from there you can specify, okay, I want to achieve this load, then I need X engines or machines. Also, while doing performance tests, it's nice to evaluate the user experience by actually opening a HLS client or a video streaming client while doing the performance load, so you can see how really you are looking in, how you are experiencing the video while the servers are under load, and from that you can get additional metric or things to assert or verify in your script. Some other things to take into consideration: always when doing tests, consider your user's profile, from where are those users located, from how is their bandwidth, how much of users use high quality bandwidth or low quality bandwidth, and the like. So it's always nice to have a representative data set to test your platform. Also consider creating a baseline, so you test your platform with a given known flow or load, and then, for example, the expected user flow in production, and then you can run tests from there and compare against that to see if the system is degrading or not under certain circumstances. And finally, and not the least, test your platform with different type of tests. I mean, you can stress test your platform to see how much load it can get, or how much users can get concurrently. You can also do load testing to test with different loads and measure how it's behaving with those loads. You can do some endurance testing, that is running the test for a long period of time and see that your servers are not degrading. And there are some other different type of performance tests, so keep that in mind. For any, in Abstracta, we work a lot on doing performance testing of video streaming, and so if you need any help on doing the performance test or creating the plans, please contact us or contact Blizzmeter, which they also have a lot of experience with this. And I will open it for questions now. So Emma, would you like to take it from here?
Thanks so much, Roger. So yes, just a reminder that we have the question tab that you can ask some questions. Feel free to respond, and a reminder that the webinar is being recorded. We've had a few people asking that, so we will be sending out the recording in the coming days. We have actually a question that someone asked about the sample test templates that you spoke about. Are they available to download anywhere?
The sample test, well, the one that I created is not available for download, but the script used on it are in the blog post that I mentioned, the one that you are going to share, the one about the HLS plugin 2.0 release.
Fantastic. Yeah, I shared it in the chat here as well, but I'll also be sending it out in the follow-up email. So you'll be able to see a step-by-step guide as Roger was showing in the actual today, but also going step-by-step guide as well into the HLS plugin. So we have a few questions. If there's a plugin for Dash or Microsoft Streaming, any plans for a Dash plugin, other streaming protocols?
Yes, we are considering that. I mean, we are currently working on Dash protocol support. It should be released pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. Regarding the other protocols, we don't have them currently in the backlog, but if you demonstrate interest, please let us know. There is the GitHub repository where you can create issues there requesting for some particular features or things that you think might be interesting. We are always looking for it, and there is also the Google Groups for Streammeter plugins, where we are also monitoring there for any requests or particular issues that users may have. So we get requests from there, and we put it on the backlog and prioritize according to the needs.
Fantastic. There's a question about, is there a plugin to test TCP protocols?
There is a plugin for TCP protocol. It's not about video streaming. I think this is more like a general question, but there is a plugin in Streammeter included by default that is about TCP. I haven't used it, but it is there.
I see we also have a few questions about the groups and best places to get for some more information. So in the email, and I'll try and send now a few links in the chat, if not into the email, of some places where, as Roger was mentioning, we also have the Blazemeter blog, as Roger mentioned as well, where we have a lot of resources on video streaming. And some Slack channels as well about JMeter Slack channel community that I will share with you all as well. I'm actually going to go try and find that link now so I can put it into the chat. All right, a lot of similar questions about the protocols again. Someone mentioned, oh yes, we have a question about, can you please show again how to create the HTML report?
Yes, I mean, it is on the video. I can show it again, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want me to repeat it?
a couple people asked.
Okay,
If not,
yeah,
it's fine.
let's do that.
We can show it
Yeah,
very quickly, and then we can.
yeah, we have time. So basically what you do is you specify, well, to generate the report, this is a new feature in JMeter 5.1.1, I think, which provides you the report option here in the tools menu. In previous version, you could do the same from the command line. But in general, what you will do is generate HTML report. You specify the CSV file, which is a CSV file generated by one of the viewers, one of the listener. For example, here I store the file in HLS CSV. So every time I run this test, it will generate this file. And then if I go here, you can select that CSV file. You specify user properties file where you specify some customizations to the report that is being generated. In this particular case, I'm being configuring these two main graphs, which I kind of copy paste and just change the variables from some samples in the internet. And in particular, in the CSV file, for charting those particular variables, you will need also the CSV files to contain those variables. So for the CSV file to contain the variables, you need this line over here. And from there, you specify the file here. It's already shown you. Let's go to desktop, HLS webinar. We select the CSV file again. We go here, select the JMeter. Yep, I'm going to invite. Yeah, you go to JMeter, 5.1, bin, you select the user properties file that is customized, and you specify a directory where you want to generate the HTML report. For example, HTML, I don't know, 2. You do generate here, and you go here, you get the new folder, you can open this index file, and you get channel statistics, you get all these same as the summary statistics, you get error reports, top 5 error samplers. If we go here to the charts over time, you can see responses over time, many graphs that are included by JMeter. They are really, really nice for visualizing different stuff. And also there you have throughput as well, response times, many graphs here, and the custom graphs that I've shown you. In particular, here we are, as I said, we are showing how much buffer we have created or downloaded from the servers. And here underneath, we can see for each particular segment how much time was spent buffering or had to wait for that segment to be available for reproduction. I don't know if that's enough or there were some other questions regarding HTML report.
Nope, that was it for now. There was a question that just came in about JMeter and if it can be installed. Is JMeter itself run on just one client, or is there an agent that can be installed on other clients to distribute the load? Or can you explain a bit about if this is what BlazeMeter does? Kind of the distinction between.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, JMeter, you can download it just a shard. I mean, it's just a zip that you can uncompress your machine. It's a Java application. You can run, you get the user interface. You can run it from command line tool as well. And JMeter also provides a built-in solution for running JMeter in kind of a master and slaves way. It's not very performant that way, but you can do it. I mean, you can install it on your machines. You might also get some issues with JVM tuning, but I mean, it's something that is doable and it's being used by many users. BlazeMeter would provide, they provide all the infrastructure, all the JVM tuning, and provide you with a cloud infrastructure, and also additional features, as I mentioned to you, like this continuous integration API and command line tools, They also provide the comparison between runs, historical data, aggregated reports, web interface. You can share reports over there. They also provide this general pass-fail criteria, which JMeter is kind of difficult to get. But yeah, that's like my general summary of different options for running the JMeter test that you might get.
Thanks. I'll also share some information about running those tests. I believe we also have a post that we've done in the past, and of how to run the video streamings at scale as well, and the load test and distributing it through BlazeMeter as well. So I'll look for that article as well and be able to share with you, because like Roger mentioned, that we have there's the benefits of the open source tool, and then beyond that is BlazeMeter, the scalability of BlazeMeter. And I'll be happy to follow up and share any information on that if anyone is interested. If there's any last few questions, otherwise we'll probably start winding up in the hour. Roger, is there any last things that you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
No, enjoy the plugin, and here are the sites for abstract and BlazeMeter in case you want to go there and take a look. So that's basically it from my side.
So I want to thank you all for joining us. Thanks you to Roger for presenting about this wonderful topic. And as you can see here, you can find more information at BlazeMeter and Abstracta. I'll send over all of the links and some of the things that we've discussed. Feel free to ask any questions still. We get those questions and we can reply to them. You can reply to the email that I'll send out with the recording as well if you have any additional questions that you might have. And thank you all again for joining us. We really appreciate it. And please, if you can answer those 10-second survey, that would be fantastic to give us feedback for all of our webinars, topics for future webinars, and to request any more information. So once again, thank you again to Roger, and wishing you all a wonderful rest of the day. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.